Hey everyone, Jennifer Lee Chan here from NBC Sports Bay Area. It is halftime of Game 6 of the NBA Finals, so I thought I'd do a quick video. Pacers are ahead by 22 points, and they are on fire. Brock Purdy's friend, Halliburton, is on the court after having a calf strain, not being sure whether he was going to play, but he's like, I'm going to play. It's kind of like guys in the Super Bowl. They are going to play. So just taking a look at the roster, I was looking at the 53 man initial cuts of 2024 and looking at the numbers and trying to kind of look at where they are now, looking at their 90-man roster and then where they could cut, where they're going to have the numbers in this season. So looking at who they had last year, I'm going to start at the top. Let's start at offense. So quarterbacks in 2024, Brock Purdy, Joshua Dobbs, and Brandon Allen. This year, pretty similar, pretty cut and dry. Brock Purdy, Mac Jones, Tanner Mordecai. Curtis Rourke, who is coming back from an ACL injury, probably will start the year on IR or PUP or NFI. I'm not sure exactly what designation he'll have, but it's probably going to be a redshirt year for him. So Curtis Rourke will be with the team, probably will get activated at some point to be part of the practice squad. All right. Next position, running back. Last year, they kept 4: Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, Patrick Taylor, Isaac Rendo. This year, and of course, they keep 1 fullback, and that's Kyle Juszczyk. That's a given. So of the 4 of the running backs they have this year, obviously Christian McCaffrey, Isaac Rendo, and I think they're going to keep Jordan James, who's the guy that they drafted. So that 4th spot, Patrick Taylor, Israel Abanikanda, Corey Kiner. I think the closest to making that 4th spot, Patrick Taylor and Israel Abanikanda. Now, Abanikanda never got on the field last year, and they had a lot of injuries, and I thought maybe they would activate him, but he never really had a chance. So I think it's Patrick Taylor. If they keep 4 running backs, I think it's Christian McCaffrey, Isaac Rendo, Jordan James, and Patrick Taylor. Israel Abanikanda maybe goes to practice squad. Corey Kiner, again, also maybe practice squad. All right. Fullback, Kyle Juszczyk. Wide receiver where it gets to be a little more questionable who the actual solid, make or break guys are going to be. Wide receivers last year, they kept 7: Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Ronnie Bell, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, Chris Conley, and Jacob Cowing. That's 7. This year, 2 guys are probably going to be starting on the pup, or, that's Brandon Ayuk. Demarcus Robinson could start the game with a suspension. He could be suspended 1, 2, or 3 games. So let's take those 2 guys out. Brandon Ayuk, Demarcus Robinson, those guys are out. So then if they keep 7, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing. I think Jordan Watkins has looked really good in camp. So that's 4. Now, there's a lot of guys who are on the bubble after that. Junior Bergen is a guy who Brant Boyer wanted as a return guy, but they do have Jacob Cowing. So Jacob Cowing could be the returner, but also Junior Bergen. They did draft him. So if Junior Bergen is the 5th, who's the 6th? A lot of guys on the bubble. Russell Gage is a vet that they brought in. He didn't stand out during minicamp, but that doesn't mean he won't make a play during training camp. Isaiah Hodgins is another guy. Malik Knowles. I think those guys are kind of guys that'll probably be on the practice squad. 2 guys that are on the bubble. I think Isaiah Nair and Tariq Owens. Tariq Owens did an IG live the other day. I was watching and asked him what his goals are going in training camp. He's just stay healthy and compete. So Tariq Owens is a guy that I know the 49ers like. He was injured last year, didn't have a full shot. Isaiah Nair, though, is also a guy, big, tall, strong, wide receiver, also fast. He's a guy that could win a spot. So that the last 2 spots for wide receiver, depending on what happens with Demarcus Robinson, and they could announce a suspension right before week 1. They could announce a suspension after week 1. So we just don't know what's going to happen with Demarcus Robinson. So if it's only 4 that we know, and that's Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, and Jordan Watkins, that leaves 3 more. So I think it's Junior Bergen, Isaiah Nair, and Tariq Owens. I would think. If Demarcus Robinson does start on the 53, then it does kind of make, I think he's going to be on the 53, but he could be suspended. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. But that's where I kind of see wide receiver panning out. There's a lot of questions on an offensive line. Last year, they kept 8, and it was obviously Trent Williams, it's John Feliciano, Nick Zakel, Jake Brendel, Aaron Banks, Colton McKivitz, Spencer Burford, Jalen Moore, Dominic Pooney. Um, Actually, that's 9, but I don't know why I had that. So that's what I was looking at. Oh, no, because Trent Williams, no, he played week 1. Um, but this year, offensive line, let me look that up because that is odd because week 1, I do believe Trent Williams is active. I know he held out until, um, let's see, and he was active for, let's see, here we go. But there's a lot of questions on, who are they going to keep the cusp players again? So there's a lot of, I think, oh yeah, Trent Williams played week 1. It was the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 games that he did not play. So Trent Williams did play week 1 against the New York Jets. So I don't know who I added extra on there. I'm going to check. Stand by. All right. So the initial 53 did not include Trent Williams because I think he had not reported yet. So, yeah, interesting. So when you look at the 8 guys this year, all right, we've got 5 for sure: Trent Williams, Ben Barch, Jake Brendel, Dominic Pooney, Colton McKivitz. I think Ben Barch is the guy that they want for that left guard position. That's 5. 3 more would be Spencer Burford as a swing tackle. I think Connor Colby, their draft pick, and Nick Zakel. He's a guy that has been pretty solid, been getting some reps. But then there's also Matt Hennessy, who's also been taking some snaps at center, kind of Jake Brendel's backup. Drake Nugent is a guy that has been around as well, who's had some time kind of rotating in. Austin Pleasance is another guy who's kind of rotated in as well. Outside of that, it's Isaac Alarcon, Sebastian Gutierrez, Zach Johnson, Drew Moss. Those guys probably on the practice squad, but when you look at kind of the guys who are in close competition, for those final few spots, I do think it's Spencer Burford. He's played a lot. He's good at swing tackle, and Chris Forster said he sees him as a tackle. I think they want to protect their draft pick in Connor Colby and Nick Zakel. So those are battles that we're going to see during training camp. One last final offensive position, tight end. Last year they kept 2. George Kittle, Jake Tongas. George Kittle, Jake Tongas. This year, the 2 are George Kittle and Luke Farrell. So does Jake Tongas get a spot? Is he the 3rd? They also have Mason Pline, Braden Willis, and Ross Dwelley. Ross Dwelley knows the system, obviously has been around for a long time. He went to the Atlanta Falcons, and then the 49ers signed him this year. He's maybe a guy that they could not keep for the 53 and let him, see if he's out there and then bring him back to the practice squad. Maybe he's a guy who doesn't get poached. But maybe if they only keep 3 running backs instead of 4, then they're able to keep an extra tight end, and that's probably Jake Tongas if you look at their past history. But it's definitely the 2, George Kittle, Luke Farrell. So do they keep a 3rd tight end? They've kept 2 in the past, but those are guys that, they've spent draft picks on. Jake Tongas is a guy that they like, but obviously they're going to go forward with George Kittle and Luke Farrell. So that's the offense. Pretty fascinating. All right. Moving to the defensive side of the ball. Defensive line. Last year they kept 9. Robert Beal. This is not in, I think this is in, it's not in any particular order. Obviously Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Malik Collins, Robert Beal, Leonard Floyd, Kevin Givens, Sam Aquanu, Jordan Elliott, Yetur Gross-Matos. So those are the 9 that they kept last year. This year, obviously, I think it's more cut and dry. It's the final spot. That is a little crazy. And a lot of it depends on Alfred Collins and his health. Um, Looking at the defensive line, it's Nick Bosa, Bryce Huff, obviously. Yetur Gross-Matos is a guy that they really like. Jordan Elliott has been playing a lot of first team reps. He looked really good during minicamp. And then you've got your three draft picks, Michael Williams, CJ West. Now, Alfred Collins, if he is not healthy through training camp, they said he should be healthy during training camp. It's a calf injury that happened during his pro day. So he has not been on the field at all. So if he starts on the pup or the NFI, then they have an extra spot. I do think they keep Sam Okwanu. But after that, Kevin Givens is a guy who's been really solid. Evan Anderson has been really solid as well at defensive tackle. Then you look at Kylia Davis, has been around for a long time, has dealt with injuries. He's a guy that they know and really like. Robert Beal, also a guy who made the 53 in 2024. Does he make it again this year? They've got Jonathan Garvin, Teron Jackson, and Sebastian Valdez outside of that. But again, guys on the cusp, there are going to be some serious battles during training camp. I do think Sam Okwanu makes it. He played really well at the final stretch of the 2024 season. He's a guy that Nick Bosa has talked a lot about. A lot depends on Alfred Collins. Is he healthy? Is he not? If he's not healthy, that opens a spot for Evan Anderson and Kevin Givens, maybe Kalia Davis, maybe Robert Beal. Those final spots are going to be tough competition for the defensive line. All right. Linebacker. Last year they kept 6. Do they keep a full 6 this year? I think so, but there is potential that they don't. If they keep 5, maybe they can keep an extra defensive lineman. It's all these massaging of numbers that kind of come down to the final minutes of that, cutting it down to 53. 4 for sure. Fred Warner, clearly. D. Winters, Nick Martin, Curtis Robinson. I think those 4 guys are your solid 4. Now, Curtis Robin could start the year on PUP, which allows them to keep another guy. I think the other 2 are Tatum Bethune and Jalen Graham. So Tatum Bethune, Jalen Graham are kind of guys that have been around. I know the team likes them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have, but they've been on the practice squad. They've had some reps. So if there's 6, Fred Warner, D. Winters, Nick Martin, Curtis Robinson, Tatum Bethune, and Jalen Graham. If they keep 5, maybe Tatum Bethune, Jalen Graham on the cusp. The other 3 that they have, Stone Blanton, Luke Gifford, Chaz Surratt, probably practice squad guys. So that's kind of a little bit more cut and dry than a lot of these other positions. All right, safety. Now, Malik Mustafa is going to start the season on PUP. So we've got Jair Brown, George Odom, who is a special teams ace, Jason Pinnock, and Richie Grant. Last year, safety, Jair Brown, Talanoa Hufanga, George Odom, Malik Mustafa, 4. That was pretty cut and dry last year. This year, they have Marquise Siegel and Jalen Mahoney, who have both made some pretty good plays during minicamp. So the competition during minicamp is really going to be tough. I know they brought in Jason Pinnock because Malik Mustafa, questionable when he's going to return. His ACL injury happened at the end of the season, week 18. Now, he did have an ACL injury at the end of his Wake Forest season and then played week 1, but it's the same knee. I think the 49ers are going to be much more careful, which is why they paid a little money to get Jason Pinnock, veteran who knows what he's doing out there. Also, Richie Grant has been playing. He's been making some good plays during minicamp as well. So if Malik Mustafa misses the first few weeks, you've got Jair Brown and then probably Jason Pinnock. But Marquise Siegel is a guy I think they keep because he was a draft pick. He was working on the side field. We don't know how he's going to transition to the NFL. We'll see how he plays during training camp. But if you pick 4 right now, I think it's Jair Brown, George Odom, Jason Pinnock, and Richie Grant. Maybe Marquise Siegel instead of Richie Grant. Not sure. That one's a tough one. We're gonna have to watch during training camp. Cornerback. Last year they kept 6. They kept Deommodore Lenoir, Charvarius Ward, Ambry Thomas, Isaac Adam, Darrell Luter, and Renato Green. Obviously, Deommodore Lenoir, Renato Green ended up being your starting quarterbacks. And when Charvarius Ward was not healthy or was dealing with, of course, family tragedy, Deommodore Lenoir also kind of slipped on the inside. This is where it's going to be interesting because Upton Stout is a guy that they drafted to play that nickel role. So if Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green play outside, Upton Stout plays inside. I also know that they like Saran Neal, veteran that they brought in. So that's four. Looking at who they had last year, they had Darrell Luter, Isaac Adams. So if you look at that, Darrell Luter is probably a guy who makes it if they keep if they keep six. Chase Lucas is also a guy who has been around, and I know they like. He's made some good plays during minicamp, but again, this is one of those camp battles that we're going to watch. Outside of that, two trays, a pair of trays, Trey Brown, Trey Avery. You have Derek Canteen, Dallas Flowers, and Jacob Robinson. So I do think there's definitely four at the top. Deommodore Lenoir, Renardo Green, Upton Stout, Saron Neal, Darrell Luter, and I think Chase Lucas. I think those are your six. Um, Outside of that, we'll see, it could be different. But the four, I think for sure, are Demo, Renardo, Upton, and Saron. That's your defense. Special teams. I know everybody is like so angry that Jake Moody is still on the team, but he is a third round pick. I do understand why the 49ers are keeping him because they want to protect their draft pick. It's just if you spend a third round pick on a kicker, you want to give him every chance possible. So I think for the 53, I think it is Jake Moody. This prediction. But interestingly, he's got Greg Joseph to compete with, but the Jets waived Anders Carlson. Now, Anders Carlson was picked up by the 49ers last year when Jake Moody had a high ankle sprain. He did kick for a while until Jake Moody got back, and then he was released. Long snapper John Weeks, they only have one, so there's no competition there. And Thomas Morstead, he is the punter, no competition there as well. I recently announced on social media that he has officially taken number 7 as a jersey number. So we'll see what happens with Jake Moody. He's got to kick well in practice. He's got to kick well during those preseason games, and we'll see what happens. But for the 53, I do think it's Jake Moody. That's just my gut instinct. But, it could be that his new kicking technique doesn't work for him. I do think it helps. I know Robbie Gould kicked that way, and it allowed him the ability, just that minute, like that microsecond to adjust slightly. If the ball is placed a little bit differently or a little bit later or a little bit earlier, it does give him the opportunity to adjust, maybe not with the distance, but a little more accurately. But Jake Moody's got a big leg. He has kicked 55, 60-yard field goals, and we've seen it in practice. But yes, he's got to build the confidence back up, and maybe competing with Greg Joseph will help. So those are my inklings about what the 53-man roster could look at the initial state after training camp, but obviously a lot more things have to happen, a lot more competition at training camp. Leave me a message in the comments if there's a guy who you think will make it, one of your favorites who you're looking out for. But definitely like and subscribe. Appreciate you watching. Enjoy game 6 of the NBA Finals. I'm for Pacers. Go Pacers. They're still up. All right. Halftime's over.